Here we are, day 3 of training camp. Julie Donaldson, Santana Moss here with you for Training Camp Live. It is a beautiful day out. It is sunny. Well, I think we're going to have a little bit of a sunburn on our backs here, but that's okay. We are not going to be complaining because yesterday it was raining and the entire team was in the bubble. So we have had to wait to be able to see all the players coming onto the field as they are now. Talking to a lot of the players and the coaches, they thought it was just so exciting to get finally 80 guys back together. I mean, look, it's been a long time, Tana.
And we were sitting here talking about just seeing the guys walk out on the field. It shows you, it gives you that feel. That's, you know, one of the things about playing this game, you can taste it. You can taste when it's football season, not just taste it.
I think you can smell it too. I mean, the grass, the freshly cut grass, hearing the whistles, you can't help but get excited. We're going to be here every single morning making sure that we bring you everything that we can from training camp. Yes, the guys are just getting out there right now. They've got an hour of conditioning. At 10 o'clock, they go through an hour of walkthroughs. Those walkthroughs are going to carry on until the 13th. That is when they can put the helmets on because, look, don't forget, they haven't had mini camps. They haven't had OTAs. And so as head coach Ron Rivera was saying, they're treating this a little bit like a mini camp. You have to kind of go slowly because you don't want to just throw them right out there and then injuries happen.
Yeah, one of the things about it, you know, the first thing that came to mind when I heard that it's no preseason. So you say to yourself as a player, how can I be prepared at best when it comes to just the injuries that you always occur during this time of the year? And the best thing, the best coaches know how to do that. They know how to prepare these guys by saying, hey, let's cut a little bit down and let's go out there every day and try to get better and build up into that game day where we can go full go all together.
Adrian Peterson told me yesterday as they were running under the bubble, he goes, it felt so good to get some air in your lungs because as they're going through the COVID testing, they weren't really allowed to be around anybody because they want to make sure that they're safe and when they are on the field that everybody is clear, does not have that. So he said finally could get out there, you know, get gassed a little bit. But you're going to find out pretty quickly who is in shape and who is not. So it is time to warm up, and for that, well, in our warm-ups, we're going to go to the speed of the game. Look, we are talking about it here, Santana. There's going to be no preseason. So for the rookies that are coming in, the big question is going to be how quickly can they learn and adjust to the speed of the NFL? Is there kind of like that moment? I mean, especially if you don't have those practices against other teams. You don't have the preseason for them to be live game action. You're having to put it in practice. So we know that's always like a different tempo. Yeah. How do you kind of tell the rookies, like, hey, when you get into the game action, it's going to be totally different than what you had in college?
Well, I believe that tempo from the preseason to the regular season is unmatched. You know, one of the things I learned out the hard way is that preseason game is almost like a walkthrough until you play that third game where everyone say, hey, this is going to be week one's team lineup. Still, it's unmatched. Unfortunately, I couldn't play a preseason game my first year, so I had to experience that come week 12, and the game was like warp speed. So these guys, all you can do is tell them that, hey, what we're doing now and not having a preseason, just be aware, week 1, things will be going at a speed that you're not unfamiliar with.
You know, we're talking about speed, and I think most of us automatically go, okay, we're talking about physical speed. You're talking about just that attribute. But I think a lot of it, you heard guys saying that, it doesn't take a little time for the game to slow down because a lot of the speed of the game are just the adjustments that you have to make in it as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the things about it, when you're young, you're going to do a lot of thinking. And the only way you can play this game, regardless if you're young or old, is go out there and not have a thought in your mind. I told guys myself, like my last years, I hated going to the line of scrimmage and wondering, does this QB know that I'm going to be the guy open? And that is like a recipe for disaster. That's one of the things you don't want to do. So these young guys have to know quickly that I can't go out there thinking. So these 5 weeks are going to be very, very crucial for them to learn everything so they can get out there week 1 and not have to think about it.
You mentioned getting up the quarterback going after me. I hear a lot of guys too say, look, once it slows down, you kind of know the personnel. Like you can tell by just kind of maybe the way that they put their gloves on. Okay, the ball's going to go to them. See where their eyes are, the ball's going to go to them. And as a young guy, you're constantly thinking and evaluating, and it doesn't just settle in as to where when you're a vet, you kind of just seeing those little tendencies. Are they on their heels? Are they on their toes? Which way is it going to go? You can kind of slow down a little bit. But tell us a little bit about maybe one of your transitions, because I imagine from high school to college, it's a lot different as well from college to the pros.
Yeah, well, as a high school guy coming into college, I had to put those big boy pants on very quickly. You know, I thought
University of Miami guy as well, by the way. Got the U going on.
I came in as a walk-on. I'm like, hey, screw it. I'm gonna be a freshman, a walk-on all year. And then before you know it, third game of the season, they threw me into the fire. So I couldn't think about it. I was tossed into the fire, first play, first catch of the game, and now I'm playing football. As a pro, unfortunately, I couldn't start out the gate like that. So I had to sit back and watch the game, and then eventually I got out there and played. But what I can tell you from just watching guys and having the experience myself, it's no really time for you to think about whether I'm qualified to be out here playing early or later. I think once you get in these doors, now the players are coming prepared and knowing that, hey, I'm a pro. I've been waiting for this moment. Let me play now.
All right, and one of the things that has been an adjustment as well, so you can't be in the meeting rooms. Sam Mills, the D-line coach, was talking about how he is getting his guys ready virtually.
Foremost, the challenge was, we're used to being in the room with these guys and being able to stand a guy up and talk technique. And the other thing was having his undivided attention. We're used to that. So we had to take into consideration that, they're at home with their families. So every now and then there may be a little kid's head pop up on the screen or something. So, you got to just remember to give guys breaks and let them deal with certain things in their house for a quick second. But our guys did a really good job of locking in and focusing in when we needed to. But I think we just, as coaches, it forced us to kind of step our game up and, using different apps or whatnot to test guys and keep them sharp. But I think I actually like it. I like where it's made football go. I think it's made us grow somewhat and look down different avenues for different ways of learning. And to be honest with you, I think some of the universities have been using it already. So the guys were more comfortable than we were probably.
All right, so, it's kind of interesting. During COVID, I went around and I actually interviewed a lot of the college coaches around there, and they said it's kind of easier for the young guys, kind of same thing that Mills is saying. The young guys are kind of used to this. They're always on their tablets, being in the meeting room, in the classroom, so he kind of doesn't mind the advancements as long as they're focused and engaged.
Yeah, one of the things that he said, that these young guys are more prepared than the guys that been in this league for a while, or us dinosaurs that you might call it. And it's kind of, I
wouldn't call you a dinosaur just yet.
It's kind of cool to me, though. Just think about it. I was one of those guys that like to come out here, get my work in, and get home. So if I didn't have to sit in a meeting and sit and go over something that I knew for the last 10 or 12 years, it's great to be able to sit on your couch and, just log in and say, I'm here, you know what I mean? So some of that stuff is more for the guys who are trying to catch up or people who just need a little more tutoring. So I believe the young guys are taking advantage of it, but I believe the old guys are taking advantage of it too, knowing that I don't have to be in the meeting room, confined to that room for a certain amount of time, going over the same thing I already understand.
And if you think they're not paying attention, head coach Ron Rivera makes sure they does, because he pops in and out of meetings and will randomly ask questions or follow up. So yes, they have to be engaged in those meeting rooms. When we come back here, though, on Training Camp Live, we're going to be continuing to go through, as we go through this process, different position groups. We're going to talk about the secondary. What players out there have the opportunities to start this season? Stay with us.
This summer, get back in the driver's seat. Your Honda dealer is open and ready to get you into a new Honda today. Like the versatile HR-V or the fun-to-drive CR-V. Visit the Honda Summer Clearance Event and get a great deal from Honda, KBB.com's 2020 Best Value Brand. Get a great deal on the CR-V at the Honda Summer Clearance Event today.
A moment of joy, a source of inspiration, an act of kindness, an old friend, a new beginning, some welcome relief, or a cause for celebration. What's inside? Possibilities. What we deliver by delivering.
We're going to be talking now about the secondary. This is the X's presented by Pepsi. Glad to have you here along with us. We're excited to kind of see how things shape out. One of the big question marks, because we're also getting to know the coaches as well. Most of them came over from Carolina. Chris Harris, he's taking on the defensive back room. And so he was asked kind of how he sees that room shaping out.
But it's going to be one thing. There will be an open competition. I'm all about competing for jobs. Nobody will be giving a job, regardless of what your statue is, how much money you make, how little you make, how long you've been in the league, or how short you've been in the league. Everybody has to come in. Everybody has to compete. to earn that starting role. And everybody will understand what their roles are once we get here.
When you hear him, Santana, say that, look, they're not specific positions. They don't define themselves like that. He says they are DBs. Translate that for us. What is a player hearing when they says that?
Well, you have to understand, today's game, you have multiple receivers out there, have multiple ball catchers out there, and you have to be interchangeable. You have to be able to say, I can line up on left or right. I could be a guy on the inside. Hey, we switched the package. I can bring my safeties down, have them play underneath, have my corners playing, safety. You have to be able to change these guys up, disguise these guys, and be able to fit your schemes. I'm pretty sure a coach like, Coach Harris have seen and watched enough film to say, this is where we did things wrong here last year. This is why you guys got beat so much, because you didn't disguise packages. You're setting those plain coverages, and people picked you apart. So he wanted to bring something new. Whatever worked for them wherever they was at in Carolina, he wanted to bring it here and show them that they can be more efficient doing the things that they know how to do best.
And of course, we've talked a lot about that defensive line, how much that's really going to help those guys out as well. But yeah, I mean, with the game changing, you also have to be able to cover the Zach Ertz of the world when they're out there. You have to be able to match up with the 4 receivers when they're out there. And so, given that, pretty much everybody on the field in the secondary has got to be able to cover as well. But it's also kind of part, I think, of a new coaching staff coming in and saying, okay, look, they don't have that big superstar name, that you go out there. And so really, it's kind of to me saying, all right, we have to still continue to evaluate who's on this roster, and almost everybody's going to be given a chance to play. When we were talking with defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio, we were kind of going through the roster, and he pointed out, he didn't mention Simeon Thomas. So he's pretty much saying, don't forget these guys because they have those opportunities to get out there.
Well, first thing I thought about, I had to look the guy up. I came here actually about him, but
from Seattle.
At home, what I found out was he's from my alma mater. He's a Carol City guy. Go look it up. So when I heard that he's from Carol City and he's a Miami guy, he's a Chief, I know he's the type of guy that's going to come out here and give it his all. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the guy is going to bring to the party. And when you hear a coach that you go through a whole presser with him and you don't mention anything about a kid and he tells you, he referenced, hey, this guy that we need to talk about, then we need to make sure that we keep our eyes glued to this guy because he has some potential and the coach sees it.
When you talk about building kind of the perfect DB, especially in this area with Washington football team, you go back to Sean Taylor. Of course, we're all very familiar with his story and just how tragic of an end he had. You never really got to see the full potential, but you got to see enough to really get excited behind. If we're to build the perfect DB, what quality traits would you put in that? Who's giving you the most fits out there?
If I had to build the perfect DB, I would say I'd take Moreau's size. Moreland, his knack for the ball. You have a guy like, you name it, Darby. He was a guy, when I watched him play, he was always there, but just couldn't make the play. So I'd take that, and then you bring in a guy, Fuller, who we knew. His versatility, to me, I think his awareness to be able to play in and out and just be solid in that position, to me, that makes the perfect DB. So you put all those guys together, combined, you have a guy out there that's playing on the level of a prime.
And one of the things that Del Rio has kept saying about Simeon Thomas is he has that length. He said he wants to see him kind of beef up a little bit. He's kind of a little bit on the lean side, but you kind of think like a Richard Sherman, very tall, has the ability to have that. And of course, they keep stressing versatility. That's something that we have been hearing from, head coach Ron Rivera from the beginning, is guys have to be able to play multiple positions. You see Chris Harris kind of totally backing that up, saying with these guys, you've got to be able to play all over the field. And the biggest thing that we said when it comes down to it, is you have to really kind of trust where guys are. So I think that's the big thing too, is especially comes with the football smarts, know what's going on, know where you have to be, and trust that your guys are where they're supposed to be as well.
I think that's one of the best things you can have as a defensive back is trust. You have to understand that whatever package or whatever coverage that I'm in, I have that particular side of the field, or whether it's deep third, underneath, you have to understand that this is my responsibility. Some of the great cornerbacks, some of the great defensive backs, they are able to say, I'm going to take care of my responsibility first, and I'm going to peak when I know I handle things on my side and see where I can help out guys later. So that's big. That's big in knowing that, hey, as long as that guy have his, I remember being a young kid playing cornerback, and I had a guy always.
Wait, so you played, when did you play?
So when I played Pee Wee ball, from Pee Wee all the way up until when I was in 10th grade, I played both positions. And I thought about it a while. I had a wise thought to say, hey, you know what, do I want to keep getting my head smashed and trying to make tackles?
Tell me what the reason is of why you decided you want to move from defense to offense.
I got hurt more playing defensive back than I did playing receiver. So I just thought about it one day and said, I like hearing the cheers when I'm scoring touchdowns, but hearing those bells when I'm making tackles, I got to get away from it. But
how hard hard is it to kind of get those guys? I mean, you think of like a Landon Collins, like, you know, one of the things that they love about him is they're like he's an alpha. Like, he's not afraid to go up there. He's not afraid to tackle. He's not afraid to hit. And a lot of guys, I mean, mimic and copy just what you said. They don't really want to do that. You know, they kind of play off a little bit. They kind of play a little bit scared when especially when it comes to, you know, man coverage.
Well, if you think about it, receivers have to be kind of, you know, wired different, you know, also, because if you're going across that middle knowing you're going to get hit, you know, that's something different. I found myself getting hurt more from friendly fire. You know, I'm making a tackle and then my own teammate come and knocking me out. So I thought that was just not right. So I said, you know, I'd rather get hit catching passes and trying to score touchdowns. But as a defensive back, when you're in that, you know, you're in that situation, you got to have just that attitude that, hey, regardless of what's going on out there, I'm going to make that play. So that's why some of those guys like Landon Collins and you see those other guys like Fabian Moreau coming up making tackles. I think he led the DBs in tackles last year, the cornerbacks in tackles. That's where they get that, you know, that ability to, because they just don't care and they want to go out there at all means and make that play.
You know, so Fabian Moreau played outside in college and basically was stuck inside for a few years until it kind of opened up. At the end of the season, you saw he had that opportunity to go outside. We kind of kept asking coach, like, you know, where can you line him? And he still kind of mentioned that he was maybe inside, outside, because again, they want that versatility. But someone like him, you know, even when I was talking with him last year in the locker room, he said he feels more comfortable on the outside because that is what more something he's got the, you know, the instincts for. And then you Kendall Fuller, like he was a player that they had when he let go. They said, we want to bring you back. And they gave him a nice hefty contract, so we asked us, they anticipate him to start, but one of the things I like about him is they think he has versatility as well.
Yeah, I think Kendall Fuller was the guy that you want to see back. I hated to see him leave, and just knowing the season he had when he left, you know, he was playing all-time high. Then he goes out there in Kansas City and played, you know, pretty well also. Bringing him back, I think he's familiar, he's going to be comfortable with here, and then just having this defense that he's going to play under, you know what I mean? Having Jack Del Rio, who's to me a defensive, coordinator guru that's going to put him in the right situations, he's going to have those guys up front hunting so well that I would love to be a defensive back. I tell guys all the time, as a receiver, they ask me this question time after time after time, who's the toughest corner? And there's a lot of tough ones I went against, but the toughest corner to me was always the best front seven that I played against. And
all right.
You can put anybody
that
up
bodes
there.
well for this team.
No doubt. So we have that, you know?
Yeah, I think if you look at the defensive line rankings coming into 2020, they are ranked 3rd in the league, and by all means, under new coaching, new tutelage, they should live up to that with Chase Young out there. I mean, look, you're talking about the impact he's going to have. The D-line loves having, but yeah, that secondary is so glad to have him as well. When we come back here on Training Camp Live, we're going to go into the O's, the other side of the field, and part of that's going to be about Alex Smith. A lot of talk about the progress he has made that is just blowing everybody's mind that he potentially has a chance to make this roster, but at what cost?
Boy, I am burning.
This summer, it's time to get back outdoors. Your Honda dealer is open and ready to get you into a new Honda today. Enjoy the sunshine in the family-friendly Pilot or the rugged Passport. Visit the Honda Summer Clearance Event and get a great deal from Honda, KBB.com's 2020 Best Value Brand. Get a great deal on the Pilot at the Honda Summer Clearance Event today.
Miracles. What we deliver by delivering.
It is time now for the O's presented by FedEx as we welcome you back into Training Camp Live. Julie Donaldson and Santana Moss. So we've been talking defense for a while, but you know, this guy gets really lit when we start talking about the offense and quarterbacks. It's kind of wild. I can never get over this. You played with, what, 15 different quarterbacks in your career, from rookies to the savvy vets to guys coming back to multiple different quarterbacks throughout this season. So if we're going to talk about the QBs, I kind of think you're the perfect guy for me to go to on this one.
Yes, indeed. I mean, you name it. I 15 of them plus. Some of those guys' names I don't remember, but you know, at the end of the day, I got the job done.
All right, well, one name that everybody here cannot forget is Alex Smith. I mean, I remember being at that game, and I still can get emotional because of just feeling the weight of what happened at that injury. And then, of course, it's been very well documented on him trying to come back. And look, he almost lost his life, almost lost his leg. And here he is now, surprising everybody with the work that he's putting on the field, anticipated to start maybe on the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list. But the fact that he has made it to this point has pretty much everybody surprised. So quick to write him off, and now you're saying you kind of can't do that. Head coach Ron Rivera even was saying, brought him up, said he just kind of is shocked a little bit by what he's doing. Yeah. But while he's out there and he's doing all the motions, and we've seen all that, Santana, the big question being, like, can he protect himself? But before we even get to that, like, if he's out there and if he can go and he can get cleared for contact and all that, typically you have 2 quarterbacks on a roster. You could be looking at 3, and that comes at a cost to another spot somewhere else.
Yeah, it comes at a cost to another spot, but let's just be honest. I'm really rooting for the kid. I'm really rooting for the guy. Let me say that.
The kid, he's like 37 years old, 16 seasons.
Yeah, you kind of get caught up in that when you're talking about so many young players. But Alex is far from that. But it's remarkable to see this guy fight back and be where he's at today. But let's just be honest. When you heard Ron Rivera first come in here, he wanted to build the young guys that he has already. And I believe that this is Haskins' job. I think that he's the long-term thought when it comes to quarterbacks, and why have to have him in a situation where he's limbo and not knowing if Alex is going to be able to come in to replace me, or is something going to happen with my spot. So I think for sure they're going to go out there and allow Alex to continue to have progress and look as good as he's been looking. But this is Haskins' spot, and I think you have a guy like Kyle. He's a great insurance policy. He knows the system. You can always count on him. But if everything falls apart and Alex shows that he can protect himself, then why not have the rest assured knowing that you can have a guy of his caliber go out there and fill in for both of the young guys.
Okay, protect himself. Take us through it. What's he got to be able to do?
Well, you can go out there and run those routes and be on air throwing the ball to those guys, but when things end in the nitty-gritty and you see those guys coming up field, those a la Chase Youngs, those Sweats in practice, if you can get around and be able to be mobile, sticking that foot in the ground and find yourself doing some of those things of what you used to doing, then we can start moving forward of saying, now let's see if we can get them in some live action. I think they're far away from that right now. Mm-hmm. Heck, it's 5 weeks that they have to play their first game. I know they're not trying to throw them out there then. But I do believe that it's great to see them out there making progress, just so you can have that in the back of your head. If we need another quarterback, we have him.
Well, I mean, during COVID, you never know. I mean, heaven forbid one, Dwayne goes down or Kyle goes down to COVID. You do need to be able to have that option.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see him go out there and have to get sacked and get hurt again, especially not on this team where he risked all that. But yes, it is a great comeback story. So you kind of have a bit of mixed emotions again on how it goes. But I think part of protecting himself, you have to look at the offensive line and the question marks you have on the offense. We talked yesterday, I'm sure we'll continue to go through this. They feel pretty confident on the right side, but the left side, there's a lot of question marks, especially at who's going to protect the blind side. Who's going to have that left tackle position? You have Jaron Christian, and you have Cornelius Lucas, and then you also have Sadiq Charles, the rookie coming up out of LSU. How much do you need to see faith in that side of the line before you can say, okay, maybe even we put Alex out there?
That plays a big part into, your decision making when it comes to your quarterbacks, but I do believe it's a lot more that they probably going to think about and go into when it comes down to that decision. Heck, it's going to change a lot about what you have on your roster if you do decide to make that decision and say we're going to put him on a 53 man roster. So I think for right now, let's just continue to be happy about this progress.
Everybody go sing nice kumbaya music because he's out there
look,
doing the work.
Alex, I'm all for you because I always want to give that guy that second chance or that opportunity to go out there and regain what was once his. But for right now, let's just cross that bridge when it gets here.
You talk about kind of knowing the playbook. Look, Kyle Allen knows it because he worked with Scott Turner in Carolina, played there last season for him. By the way, he was I think the 4th, 5th quarterback on the roster. Ron Rivera said, hey, your chances are going to come, and you got out there. So when he says at competition, anybody has the chance, he does mean that. They say that Dwayne Haskins Jr. is picking up the offense just fine. They don't seem too concerned about him doing that. But Alex Smith is quite familiar with the offense, says he knows 75% of it because he played under Norv Turner in San Francisco back in 2006. Plus, we know how smart Alex Smith is. Nobody's ever going to question him on that front by any stretch of the imagination. But when he gets out there, he can know the playbook, so he can protect himself. But is there a part of him that plays maybe a little bit scared?
You're going to initially have that thought in the back of your head. One of the things I've learned about injuries is always going to come up. You're going to have that thought. But being the guys that we are, the gladiators that we are when we are here, you have to fight. You have to fight and make sure that you can say that, when I have doubt, that's going to give me a chance to be in that position again. So you have to go out there without doubt. So I'm sure he's doing the mental things too, as well as he's doing the physical things to get himself prepared for that day when it may come. You know, he has to know that, hey, I have a risk of re-injuring myself, but at the same time, all these guys have that risk of getting hurt. And my risk is a little greater because of the circumstances that I dealt with my injury, but it's prepared, you know, it's healed, it's ready to go. So he had to go through all that stuff to get himself emotionally ready and physically ready. But once he's out there, all that stuff out the door, you have to go out there and play football.
Okay, what about the chemistry part? Because look, when he first came in here, yeah, the team was what, 6-10,
yeah,
or had, you know, we're top of the division, but he was still even kind of getting a little bit into rhythm with the receivers. Haskins came on late and seemed to kind of start hitting his stride at the end of the season. You know, you take that for its worth. Also, the offseason kind of working with some of the guys. Alex has only thrown to what, Trey Quinn, maybe Sprinkle, but he hasn't had a lot of time out there. Adrian Peterson he throws to, if you want to include that into the mix. How much of that chemistry does it kind of factor in to when maybe you're making your decision on who plays under center as well?
I don't think it really matters. You know, I've been a guy that played with guys who names I barely knew. You know, they came in the game and I hadn't caught a pass or knew his name. I saw him in the huddle like, let's make it happen. So,
come here.
Especially when you got a veteran, you know what I mean? If Alex ever suits up again, when he gets in that huddle, it doesn't matter how long he's been out there with who. He's going to make sure that guy who's open get the ball. He's the guy that hit his target. You know, he was always that guy. He hit his target. He made sure that the guy who was open got the ball. So if you have a trigger-happy young guy, then now you have to scratch your head and worry. Like, trust me, and I played with a few of those guys. I got in the game was like, Coach, I want out.
I love that you keep it real.
This guy has no clue. Get me out of here. But a guy like Alex, if he's ever in that position, you can rest assured to know that he's going to hit the guy that's open.
And I mean, if you look at the numbers between Dwayne and Alex going forward as well, I mean, you look at how many starts that each of them had, how many yards that they had going into this as well, and the completion. So look, 10 touchdowns for Alex, 7 for Dwayne.
Yeah.
You know, Alex threw for more yards, had an extra game as well. But you trust that Haskins, especially once he gets a little bit more comfortable, especially as he said that, you know, he's in shape, he's been sharp, he's done everything that coaches asked of him in the offseason, you know, that he has that ability to kind of go up there. So it's not really fair to compare, you know, a player going to a second year compared to a player going to the 16th year.
I actually look at that, and I don't mean to cut you off. I actually look at that as like, you know, that's pretty good for a rookie. And then when you look at this seasoned veteran, you know, with those numbers, but you can't compare numbers because different strokes for different folks. You know, the things that Haskins was going through was way beyond what he was ready for, and he still shows you that, you know, even with all that thrown at him, he found his way to get through it and have progress game after game. You know what I mean? So that's bright. You know, that's one of the things you can look at and say this would make this guy, you know, a great call or a great pick for us when it comes to bringing this guy in. He shows you that he can progress and get better week in and week out, even from making mistakes the week previous.
What about just winning over the locker room? I mean, I think I keep hearing that that's like one of the biggest things. Like a guy can, you know, have all the intangibles and have that big arm and stuff, but he's got to be able to be that leader in the locker room and be the one that can kind of rally guys together.
But
how much does that factor in for you?
The way you win over the locker room is going out there, hitting the guys that's open, making plays, and winning ball games. You can talk all the talk you want. You can tell me you know, the grass is purple and the sky is yellow. You can sell all that stuff to me, but when I'm open and you're not getting me that ball, trust me, we're not going to be friends. So the way you win over a locker room as a quarterback, just winning games. And that's one of the things that both of these guys, you can give them credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen fights between receivers and quarterbacks, you know, away from things just because of that. You know, it's like I'm hoping you're not trying to get to me.
Trust me, I had my son want to egg one of my quarterbacks because he stayed 2 doors down from me and I wasn't getting the ball. My son was 6 years old. So that goes to show you how deep it gets. He's
so
like,
what, he went down to the quarterback's room?
No, he asked me politely because he knew I wasn't going to be, you know, before all that. He said, Dad, do you want me to throw an egg at his house? I'm like, no, it's not his fault. Trust me, it's not his fault.
I think that's the best story that I've heard. Your 6-year-old son's going to go egg your quarterbacks. Do you remember the quarterback's name?
Yeah, I won't share it because he's a good friend of mine. You know I got him.
All right. Look, so much excitement as we do get going on day 3 of training camp. The guys are out on the field, so Chase Young is out there. He is a stud. High expectations for him, but how much can you credit the shape that he's in? Going back to his days at DeMatha right here locally. Logan Campbell is going to bring us that story when we come back here on Training Camp Live.
A moment of joy, a source of inspiration, an act of kindness. An old friend, a new beginning, some welcome relief, or a cause for celebration. What's inside? Possibilities. What we deliver by delivering.
This summer, get back in the driver's seat. Your Honda dealer is open and ready to get you into a new Honda today. Like the versatile HR-V or the fun-to-drive CR-V. Visit the Honda Summer Clearance Event and get a great deal from Honda, KBB.com's 2020 Best Value Brand. Get a great deal on the CR-V at the Honda Summer Clearance Event today.
We won't be able to talk enough about Chase Young this season. Number 2 overall. People are already projecting him to go into the Hall of Fame. We can't wait to be able to see it live in action, but we are going to literally have to wait until week 1 to be able to see exactly what havoc he can wreak. But look, so what is it you can attest part of his physique to? And does it really go back to his high school days at DeMatha? Well, we're going to bring in our Washington football team insider, Logan Campbell. Logan, tell us a little bit more on how Chase Young has stayed so fit.
Thanks, Julie. Well, ever since Chase Young met his trainer, Martin Gibson, 4 years ago at Gibson Performing Training Center in Capitol Heights, Maryland, the two had an immediate bond. Now, Gibson has a reputation of training high-profile athletes, including Saquon Barkley. But when Young first approached Gibson, he said, "I want to be the best player you have ever trained." So the goal from there on out was to mentally and physically train Young to be prepared for a college level and the professional level. Now, throughout the past 4 years, his workouts really haven't changed. He has had fast-paced circuit training and dynamic workouts, but the only thing that did change was adding more weights and more reps. Now, once COVID hit, obviously things started getting a little bit crazy. Instead of working out in the facility, Young actually started working out in Gibson's cousin's basement in Clinton, Maryland. This offseason was the most time that Young has spent with Gibson since high school. They spend 5 to 6 times a week training, multiple times a day. They also traveled back to Ohio State to train with D-line coach Larry Johnson. Now, one thing that has stayed the same throughout the whole entire craziness of COVID is Chase Young's mentality. Gibson would actually put in workouts that he didn't expect Chase Young to finish. When he would fail, he would, When he would fail, he would say, "You're not as good as everyone thinks you are." Harsh, I know. But he would actually do this to make sure Chase Young was giving maximum effort throughout his workouts. He would constantly remind him, "This is what you want. This is your dream. This isn't my dream. You need to put in the work to make it happen." Julie and Santana, one thing that Gibson would say that Gibson said that really stood out to me was that Chase Young knows that he has a target on his back. He knows that people want him to fail. And this is what pushes his self-motivation and drive.
You know, I mean, I kind of can understand that. If somebody's doubting you, you want to go out and you want to try and prove them wrong. Go ahead and underestimate me and see what you're going to get. That mentality kind of worked on me, kind of for you?
Always.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I tell folks to this day is that coming from where I'm from, Miami, it's guys that literally sit on couches, don't have a career, and would knock you for even making it if you wasn't a guy out there causing havoc week in and week out, or being one of those particular names that you hear called every weekend. So trust me, it's always in the back of your head as a player to make sure you prove those guys wrong.
Yeah, and well, look, he's obviously finishing those workouts just fine. But okay, so you're talking a lot about kind of the workouts that he's doing, Logan. Did the diet change at all over those years?
You know, there was a span of time where he would actually eat 2 peanut butter jelly sandwiches before his workouts, but he wanted to beef up a little bit faster and kind of cheat the system a little bit. So he started eating 4 peanut butter jelly sandwiches. But when he started meeting with his trainer, Gibson said, "Slow down, go back to 2, trust the process." And over the span of 3 months, he actually gained 35 pounds, all while maintaining his speed and flexibility.
All right, good stuff, Logan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's our Washington football insider, Logan Campbell. Okay, so you know what that tells me? I am not eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
No peanut butter for me, my friend.
No, thank you. I'm going to make sure I cut. And I love peanut butter. Gosh darn it. Look, he was playing basketball at DeMatha and decided he wanted to be, just doing football. So he had to beef up a little bit, And Lane Johnson, I mean, look, he had the Nick and Joey Bosa. So going back and working with him, he's one of the best D-line coaches, out there in college sports. Could easily be in the pros if he wanted, but he likes taking those kids in and treating them like family. So
I know what it's like going to that coach that just does everything right and have you being your best. So it's a good job.
And even when we were talking about Lane Johnson during the draft process, kind of like what is it that makes him so well, is the guys say, look, it is that he knows how to get the best out of him. And when he came and scouted him at DeMatha, I think he was the first one that said, look, this is the way you need to put your hand in the dirt. This is the way you need to stand up, your three-point stance, all that stuff. So he actually critiqued him where everybody else that was coming around, Chase Young, was saying like, oh man, you're the best thing in the world. We want you on our team. And Lane comes in and says, no, this is how you can get better. And I think that was one of the things that really kind of impressed Young and says, okay, I'm going to go be with that guy.
No doubt. That's what's up.
Yeah, and then also, you talk about just what he's going to be attributed on here. I mean, we were talking to start the show about the speed of the game. I think that's going to be a little bit different for Chase coming in. I mean, you've got Antonio Gibson comes out from Memphis, so maybe the talent he was going up against, he's going to see totally different level here at the NFL. You talk about the talent that Chase went up against. I mean, probably a lot of the guys he went up against on that O-line are probably going to be in the NFL already at this point as well.
One of the things about the guys today that's coming into this league, they're prepared. The things that they do off the field is way beyond the things that we did in those years of being able to be to play at a high level on this level. One credit that I can give to University of Miami and even my high school, they prepared us well. So we came ready. But there's a lot of guys across the board that I remember playing against in college and in the pros that you can tell that they didn't put the same amount of work that we did off the field. These guys today, you can just watch the social media networks, and from Instagram to you name it, YouTube and the Facebook pages, they're putting in work. So I believe all these guys are going to be able to come out here and take this league on by surprise.
Right, and we talk a lot about, you see those workouts, but how does that translate actually when they're on the field right here behind us? And a lot of guys saying you're going to be able to find that out real quickly. Like, okay, the Instagram videos are one thing, but are they the same videos that are going to translate to when you're on the field and what's required with that? I know that's one thing that Coach was saying he's really excited to kind of see is the shape that everybody's in, since they've had to be trusted on their own to make sure that their bodies are ready, that their conditioning is right. They haven't been able to have the facility to come into and do these workouts and have those trainers. When it does come to beefing up, I'm kind of curious, what is it that you put into your diet? Did you ever have to beef up or maybe go the other direction in your career?
I took stuff out of my diet. Yeah, I got to a point at one point in my career where I was dealing with a lot. It's crazy because I finally, I actually saw myself deal with stress differently than I've ever known that a person can deal with it. And I started gaining weight and I was stressing, and I knew I was stressing. I was stressing about some stuff off the field.
Was that too much pizza?
No, it wasn't the pizza, it was everything. Okay. You know what I mean? But pizza is my favorite, but I just ate everything because I was just thinking. But the thing that didn't change was my game. I still played at a high level, but I knew I was just putting too much stress on my body, my joints and everything else. So I made sure I brought everything down. I started cycling. And the rest was history. I'm to this day lighter than I played at.
And would that be good though if you were playing to be lighter?
As a receiver, yes.
Yeah.
You want to be light. You want to be fast. You want to be lightning. My coaches always say, be lightning. Be a guy that when you touch that grass, you leave tracks. You know what I mean? We call it cutting grass. And I was a guy that was known for doing that. So when I got back down to those college size, I was back to being that guy.
I've had the luxury of kind of seeing Santana's diet a little bit over the years because we've been doing shows together since what year did you say?
2016?
2016. Some of his very first TV shows when he retired from playing for the team, we got to break in on. And I mean, this guy is strict like crazy, but when he has cheat days, or cheat hours maybe. Yes. I don't think you do a cheat day.
Just an hour.
He does cheat hours. So you want to follow his diet. He eats all the pizza in the world. Yeah. Those peanut M&Ms. But yeah, making sure you get it in. It's important for their diet, and you have to know what it needs for the D linemen, what it needs for the receivers. But yeah, I'm going to not be eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It can work for Chase, ain't going to work for me. When we come back here in Training Camp Live, we are going to wrap it up. We're going to take a look at what you can expect tomorrow and as we go forward on Training Camp Live.
what we deliver by delivering.
This summer, it's time to get back outdoors. Your Honda dealer is open and ready to get you into a new Honda today. Enjoy the sunshine in the family-friendly Pilot or the rugged Passport. Visit the Honda Summer Clearance Event and get a great deal from Honda, KBB.com's 2020 Best Value Brand. Get a great deal on the Pilot at the Honda Summer Clearance Event today.
All right, I think I'm in mini camp form. I haven't even gotten to OTAs yet. Not Lane Johnson, Larry Johnson, very well versed in that. Still, Larry Johnson is one of the best D-line coaches in college and at Ohio State. So there you go. Apologize for that. Look, we'll get there, right? We're still warming up a little bit. Literally, we are warm out here as well. It's nice to have the guys on the field. Again, 9 o'clock every morning they're coming out. They're going through conditioning. 10 o'clock they're going through the walkthroughs. Those walkthroughs are going to continue on until the 13th when they can finally put helmets on. Do you look forward to that day when you can put the helmets on?
I think now you have to. One of the things that I always got ready for in training camp is just knowing those weeks when we going all out and taking things off. Now you progressing to those days where you can put things on. I think all these guys are looking forward to that day.
Yeah, I know a lot of them too want to just make sure that they do get the conditioning right, they get in shape right before you go and you potentially have any extra injuries as well. So look, we're here with you every single morning from 9 a.m. Of course, you can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. You don't want to make sure that you miss that. So wherever you're at work, take a little break, go get the coffee and tune us in. And then also we have a happy hour coming up at 2:30. Yesterday we talked to Adrian Peterson, so that was a great interview. Always glad to have him on the show. Today we're talking to Steven Sims Jr. Boy, he came on a big splash at the end of the season last year.
I was glad to see this guy get the opportunity. He made flashes in the the return game, and I'm just saying to myself that they need those kind of weapons on the field. You got to put the best guy on the field, and they did that late last year, and I'm looking forward to seeing his role this year.
Adrian actually told us last season, pay attention to Steven Sims Jr. out of Houston. He wasn't a name that was on anybody's radar, but he said when I watch him, he has the playmaking abilities. So he showed the flashes at the end of last season. We're going to find out, though, as camp does continue, can he build upon that and be a consistent playmaker in year 2 with Dwayne Haskins Jr. The two of them worked out during the offseason and seemed to build a little bit of chemistry. So we'll be talking with him later. Come back at 2:30 for happy hour. We'll see you again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Thanks for joining us on Training Camp Live. For Logan Campbell, Santana Moss, I'm Julie Donaldson.
Bye-bye.